Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Wednesday, the 23rd. And Nvidia just reported earnings about a half hour ago, and really nice after earnings reaction. Really nice earnings report all around. Here's the numbers if you want to see for yourself, which you probably have already seen this, but gross margins are up, revenues are up, so they beat. They also announced a $25 billion, in addition, I guess, $25 billion buyback plan as well. And they also had some great information about data centers too. They said that that's the biggest that they've seen revenue from that. So I mean, what can you say? Really impressive. And if you look at some of the after hours movers, this is taking a lot of names with it. By the way, Splunk had good earnings too, kind of getting overshadowed, of course. But SMCI, that was a name that I thought was kind of the best name to play for pin action, right? For a name that could get affected. I did mention a call spread to put on for this trade, for this name, even though the implied move was still very expensive. It was so Nvidia was implying about a 10% move, which I think was the implied move would get you to a price of 514. So it's trading pretty close to that. It's trading at 509. But I thought SMCI might be a cheaper name to play via options, and they were still implying a 7.4% move for that stock. So I think the market makers were on point with understanding that name was going to move pretty decently. That's up 6.6%. Again, the implied move for the options were implying 7.4%. So pretty darn close. Other names that are moving, Palantir is moving, and a few other, a lot of semi names. Marvell is up, Rambus is up, Broadcom is up on that, and a few other names too. So so very impressive. But overall, let's talk about the day as well, because that was very impressive too. Outside of what we saw, or what you're seeing on the right of your screen with Nvidia price going up to a high of 515 in the after hours market, there was a couple things that I was really looking for coming into today. Number one, I think breadth, right? We've talked about how the breadth has just been, you could fill in your own adjective here, but I said earlier that it's been atrocious. It's been horrible all of August. So finally, some better numbers. When I look at breadth, I have an indicator that looks at up volume versus down volume, just to kind of give a sense of the participation and what's going on there. And you could see it was pretty clean. Names that also, if we want to bring this up really quickly, what's the screen that I'm looking for? WEIB. And yesterday I was talking about how many new 4-week. I mean, it was crazy how many new 4-week lows. Still, I think you still have for the S&P. These are still 4-week new lows. A lot of names, it looks like, still were on the 52-week low list. Lilly, PWR, which I got long yesterday. Ross Stores had a nice day. Oracle, which had some crazy price action. CEG, which has been a nice name that I've been talking about as well in the energy nuclear space. Cisco, and looks like NASDAQ also made new highs. For the 52-week, I'm not going to go over NASDAQ because it's just too many, but here was the names that made new 52-week highs. So again, a little bit of a pickup, but you're still seeing names to the downside. It looks like there's a solar name in there. ENPH made a new low. I'm guessing that's in the morning. If the name rebounds, they still take that. If the name made a new low, and then you've got a couple names that are consumer staples, and I see utility in there too. So those names did not participate. So if that kind of is another theme that I have, so the breadth was better, but it was more risk on groups today. Look at utilities, really didn't do much. They did finish up on the session. They're all the way on the bottom of my screen. Again, I just like to get a feel by looking at some of these sectors to say, hey, was it more of a risk on or more risk off rally? You could see utilities, healthcare, they did not really participate, as well as a few other groups down there too. But what did participate? Yeah, I mean, blockchain stocks, they were up 2.9%, or the crypto stocks. Semis up again 2.2%. Again, this is even before these names are all rallying in the after hours market. This column, which is rallying from the open. So again, nice to see a better growth day. What else was different for the day? Bonds. So let's go to that chart. Right. I know this is not the most exciting thing in the world. It is to me to some extent, because I think there's a lot that drives off of this. So here's the version point of control that we talked about, right? Look at the rebound off of this. And I did go long bonds. I didn't stay for the whole move today because this was a bigger move than I was actually looking for. I just put on TLT yesterday for a trade. Look at the move in TLT. That's a huge move, right? Again, it's not going to get talked about because there's other things that are going on, such as this small chip company that's up after hours. That's a joke, of course, but this made it all the way through the value area, which is basically what I was looking for, right? And it's done that and then some. So, so this kind of helps think about whether or not this move could be the start of a move, what we've seen this week, right? Or if it's just one and done. And I think when you see bonds do this, and this should take the pressure, right? I mean, how many times did people that you've never heard talk about bonds talk about what the 10-year is doing and what the 30-year is doing? Yes, all things are important, but I think this will really kind of take the pressure off of that. And here's what yields did overall, right? Here's the 10-year. Right, so that's the one that everybody's been talking about recently. That had a big step back, right? And here's what yields did. I mean, these are big moves. That's the 10-year went down 13 basis points. The 30-year went down 13 basis points, right? So again, these are very big moves. So I wanted to cover that. Also, UUP, which I've talked about, took out this VPOC. It actually went up a little bit further, but this is a nice reversal bar, right? If you're bearish the US dollar, again, the US dollar is important because a lot of times it can act, if it's really strong, it can act as it's a headwind, right? It's a signal of risk off, right? So you get a nice reversal. This started up 40 basis points on the day, right? On the back of U.S. economics is on the back of European economics. Someone did ask me, which was a good question, like, was there a reason why bond yields came in this much? Well, if you look at the economics for the day, U.S. we had PMI, which is important, and I had mentioned this in the pre-market session today. I thought this could move markets today because it is more of a leading indicator, right? When you look at all the economics, like I don't really pay attention to things like GDP, right? People can talk about that at like cocktail parties, but it's a really lagging indicator. So you could see, like, so PMI is one of those that's on the side of leading indicators, right? And you could Google that. You could Google what if you haven't taken a macroeconomics class in college, you could look to see what indicators are leading versus lagging indicators versus coincident indicators. But look at the numbers coming in. So yes, the bad news here was actually perceived as good, and that's why bonds rallied, right? Also, what I thought was interesting too, just to kind of go around, retail was so weak yesterday. Look what happened in some retail stocks today, right? So again, it's kind of, it's tough to make the conclusion that the consumer is weak. My opinion is that the consumer may be more choosy in what they do. And a lot of areas in retail, they are very trendy. And I'm not necessarily that's not my area of expertise in terms of, what people are, if people are buying jeans or sneakers or whatnot. So I rely on other people to be the expert in that group. But for example, do I know if people are shopping at Abercrombie and Fitch? No, I don't. And the stock was up 23% today. Urban was another one too. So I mean, some of these specialty retailers, Ross Stores, which also had a nice quarter the other day, right? I mean, this is a nice looking chart. This name came out to new highs today, right? So real strong earnings from them. TJX looks like a great chart as well. So again, I think it's more or less, I'm just making a generalization here, but I think the U.S. consumer is being, more choosy right now. A couple other things that I thought were interesting for the day. I'm just going to talk about a couple things, but not CCJ, but CCL, the cruise lines made a nice turn. A lot of call buying going up in both the CCL as well as Royal Caribbean. That makes me think, right? I'm not one that really goes on a lot of cruises, but I would think if you're going to be on a cruise, you don't want to be on a cruise when there's a new when there's a new coronavirus variant, right, or COVID variant, and we've heard about that in the news the last couple days. So the fact that they're buying calls, I don't know, maybe they know something that this new variant is not going to be that severe. Let's hope that's the case. But you got a real nice move up in some of these names. I would also watch what the airlines are doing. I started to look at Delta. If we're sticking with the transportation group, not urban, sorry, I've been doing this now a couple times. I've done this. Uber, right? Uber had a real nice turn today. This is a name that I've been watching over the last couple of days. I actually tried to trade in my trading account the other day and just decided that it wasn't ready and I got out of it. But this looks pretty good. I like the setup here. And if you look on the 1 hour chart too, I would be looking for a target around 46.29 if you're long this name. Let me talk a little bit about the indices really quickly. You could see that one of the things that we talked about, we'll start with the 1 hour chart tonight. One of the things I talked about in yesterday's video was that I did not like the price action. I did not like the participation. However, all was not lost. We did not break out of the value area yesterday. In fact, the 80% rule is still in effect. Quite a move there in S&P futures that's happening after the close, but also through the regular session, this was strong. So that level of resistance is up at 44.90. Right, and there will be some resistance there around 44.88 as well. We'll see what happens there once we start to test that bottom of value. But these are good things. We did get, coming into today, price was, right around the 5-day moving average. So price right now is above the 5 and trying to get above the 20-day moving average. So that's some pretty good progress. What about the Qs? The Qs, which did hold the 5-day moving average, I wrote about that in my note this morning, which you can find on Substack. We did hold this, which was a positive, and now we're going to be battling with the 50-day moving average. But again, this is good, and you have to be open to all possibilities. We can continue to recover like this, or we could kind of come back in and maybe make a higher low, and then begin to move back out. Right, all things are up for discussion and debate. The 80% rule for the week, right? The bullish 80% rule, right? If you're not familiar with that, I've been talking about it all week because we broke into the value area. Whenever you break into the value area, whether it's on the week, whether it's on the year, whether it's for the month. In this case, we're on the 1 hour chart, so it's for the week. Once we firmly establish ourselves inside value, there's an 80% chance that we'll go from one side of the value to the other. That's been fulfilled. There's also a VPOC up there at 374. So very, very impressive. A couple other names that I was going to talk about it. I'll keep this video short so that you can listen to the NVIDIA conference call, which starts has already started, starts at 5 o'clock. But I think that kind of covers most of the things that I wanted to talk about. A couple names that I've been kind of jumping in and out of the last couple of days is Google. And I got back into this. I had to chase a little bit this morning, but I just thought I'd liked what I was seeing in terms of what bond yields were doing. I liked what the dollar was doing. So I thought we had a chance to have a nice trending day. So I think this Google chart looks great. Right, it had several times, right, over the last couple of weeks, it had difficulty with this 131, 132 level, right? So now it's breaking above here. So I'm long in Google. I'm long in a couple accounts actually. FSLY was a name that I added to the to my watch list today. This was a name that I talked about last week. I didn't think it was ready yet, but this one I don't always time all my trades perfectly. In fact, a lot this month have been rather difficult, but I got this one right today. This was a nice move today, up 9.5%. All right, and here's our watch list, right? So if you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, this is what we do on a weekly basis, right? You could see the names that are in yellow are the names that I added this morning, pre-market, and then I try to go over those names, or I may add a name. And you could see all the ones from the 20th or from the weekend. So we kind of build on this, right? I wanted to get this ACLS, so I'll go over a couple more symbols really quickly, but I think ACLS will be a good one to watch, right? This made it into its value area and just above the 50-day moving average. Maybe this is a false move to the downside. Well, I don't want to say it's a false move to the downside. It did have a downside move, but maybe that's enough to kind of shake out some of the loose hands in this name. That's ACLS. Another one, which Helene Meisler actually pointed this name out to me, but Match.com, right? Remember, this had good earnings. Now, this is another one all bunched up like this. I love when the price action gets tight like this. What I generally do next is once it agrees with me on the daily chart, right? And notice how this kind of just hung in there through that market volatility over the last couple of weeks, just kind of went sideways. I view that as a positive. The next thing I do is look at it on another time frame to see if the picture also agrees. So again, all this has to do is just continue above the value area for the week, 45.22, and I think that this could be a nice trade. Notice where this stalled out, right at overhead supply, right? That was all the way up at 51, right? The stock's trading at $45. So I like this setup as well. All right, guys, I will leave it there. Plenty of other setups to go through, but you could see a lot on our watch list has triggered Arista Networks, BRBR, which I don't think I've talked about at all. But how strong has this name been? Right, this is the name. This is the name company that makes power bars and shakes. I think I did talk about it in yesterday's video. Nice continuation there. Also a name that I went long yesterday, PWR. Nice continuation there, even though this is not tech. Right, continuing with the breakout of the value area today. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Have a great night. Hope to see you in the trading room tomorrow morning. Have a great night, everybody.